And Sean had a guest on in the A block. The guest was Mr. Anderson, the father to Horace Lorenzo Anderson. I want you to remember that name. Horace Lorenzo Anderson was killed inside the Seattle CHOP area, which is now, thank the Lord, and I'm not using his name in vain, been dismantled. That story's seemingly escaped the mainstream media, which wants to avoid the murder of an innocent inside of the Seattle CHOP, which was their new breeding ground for heroes. They loved the CHOP. They don't want to talk about what really happened in there. So Sean and his producers last night had the father, Mr. Anderson, of Horace on last night. The interview was in the A block of the show, was probably my guess, having guest hosted, scheduled for 5, maybe 10 minutes. The interview went on, folks, for probably close to 35 minutes. I sat there in this seat with this earpiece in my ear, watching it on my return right in front of you, about 12 seconds before you did, because I'm getting it live. It's always a little bit of a delay when it gets over the TV channel. And folks, I didn't want it to stop. It was some of the most raw, emotional TV, I'm not kidding, I've ever seen in my life. And keep in mind, I'm waiting to come on next. I was on the segment at the end of the show for a few minutes with Pete Hegseth and Geraldo. But it's probably the first time in my career at Fox and elsewhere where I honestly wouldn't have minded one bit if I was canceled. I mean that. I was sitting here in this very seat listening with my head in my hand, and it was just tough to listen to this man whose son was murdered inside the CHOP. And nobody reached out to him. No one. Couldn't even see his kid. Says he got no calls from the mayor, political leader, nobody. I couldn't play, obviously, in the interest of time, the whole video. There were so many emotional moments in it, I had to pick one. This is about a minute and a half. I want you to listen to this. I want you to send this to your friends, your family. Put the politics aside for a moment. I know that's hard. But we all need to hear this because it's something I experienced probably once or twice a month when I was a police officer on a police tape line at a murder scene. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. When you see that deep, dark place people are forced to go to when their children are taken from them and murdered, you can never unsee that. It changes you forever. You are never the same person. Listen to Mr. Anderson talk about the tragic death of his son.
The kids that passed, what happened the other day, all this on this child. Man, this is incredible. These are kids, man. I'm 50 years old. Man, these are kids, man. They should have been stopped this a long time ago. It's starting to get, excuse me, but it's getting to a point, where, it's getting.
Gotcha.
I'm so sorry.
Just really.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Anderson. I can only say this as a dad. You want to break Sean Hannity? I'm a pretty tough guy. That will break me. What you've
Somebody
been through.
that asked for this, and they need to come talk to me, and somebody need to come tell me something, because I still don't know nothing, and somebody need to come to my house and knock on my door and tell me something that, I don't know nothing. All I know is my son he got killed up there, and he's just a 19-year-old. No, that's Horace Lorenzo Anderson. That's my son, and I loved him, and that was my son,
I saw that last night. I've seen it again today, and I really, I know it's like a talk show. We're supposed to talk, and I don't even know what to say. Maybe now it'll make more sense to some of the folks who listen, who have legitimate questions, and they say, well, Dan, maybe we should let the voters of these places that have chosen these types of disastrous policy decisions suffer the ramifications. I've never supported that. That's why. because not everyone who lives in where I grew up, New York City and elsewhere, in California and elsewhere, not everyone supported that. And as a result of disastrous decisions made by failed political leaders who couldn't pull themselves out of politics for a moment and see the forest for the trees, this man's son is dead. No one talked to this guy? Mr. Anderson went to the hospital, couldn't even see his son? Nobody talked to this guy? No one called him? No one had the self-respect and dignity to pay this gentleman a call and pay some respects to his son that was murdered inside a lawless area, inside of one of America's biggest cities? Folks, we can't give up. These are our citizens too. They deserve a shot. We can't fix all the voters' bad decisions. They want to tax their people to death, regulate them to death. We're not going to be able to fix everyone, but I'm very sorry if you disagree. But when it comes to public safety and protecting the lives of American citizens, there is no silver medal. There's only the gold. And the gold medal is we are going to do everything in our power, regardless of how awful voting choices are in that area or the politicians who lead it, to protect and ensure that you can live freely in your own country. If we can't do that, then, ladies and gentlemen, we've descended into nothing more than third world chaos.